before we get there, Jim, let's explain exactly what's going on. We're going to review Dynamite as well as the Full Gear pay-per-view.
No, we're not. I've seen enough of Dynamite. We're about to talk about all that I'm going to fucking tolerate of the last Wednesday night's Dynamite.
Oh, so we're not going to review it on the experience.
No, that.
All right.
I immediately erased this shit as soon as I saw what I was asked to see, and we will pick up with the pay-per-view and see if they can redeem themselves, and I'm betting not.
Well, of course, this is one of the matches from AEW Dynamite this past week. One that I think you could recognize a lot of fans demanded. They really wanted to hear what you thought of it. Right away, as it was happening, we were getting tweets like, I can't wait to hear what Jim thinks of this shit.
That's while we were thinking that, again, that the fake room would be the capper, they decided to go one better, and so many people on Twitter and on the internet were offended as wrestling fans by this, that they made it a thing.
Well, I'll let you give your review of what was, and I'm sure you have the stipulations there, but let me just say in advance, maybe give you an idea what other people thought. Dave Meltzer in The Observer has given that match 4.25 stars.
Oh, good God.
Super match for what they are trying to do.
What were they trying to do?
And crowd loved it. And the bike stuff fit the concept.
The bike stuff fit
but Ibushi hitting people while riding the bike looked weak. So I guess that took a 1/4 star off, maybe.
Yeah, that took a 1/4 star off. This is the most embarrassing bullshit. So they did now apparently this is to promote a video game. The reason why they did this, because they were doing the commercial. It's like a Dragon Garden street fight. That is the name of it. Like a Dragon Garden street fight, right? So the video game is like a Dragon Garden. What the fuck does that even mean? But besides that, they're advertising a video game that has nothing to do with wrestling when they've got a video game that has to do with their wrestling, and they can't sell them. They can't give them away. So now it's no count out, no disqualification, anything goes, lazy booking, like a Dragon Garden street fight.
Dragon Gaiden.
What is a Dragon Gaiden?
Well, there used to be a game, Ninja Gaiden, so I assume that it's associated with that old Sega game.
Okay, what was Garden? Was the Ninja Gaiden Garden?
Well, no, there's no Garden. It's just he's a Ninja Gaiden. I'm not exactly sure.
What is a fucking Gaiden?
I don't know. Hold on. Let's find out what a Gaiden is.
Damn it.
Gaiden. Gaiden is, in Japanese, it is a side story or tale. I did not expect that. So it's a ninja tale or a ninja side story, or like a dragon side story street fight.
Like a dragon story street fight. What the fuck? Did this come from Twinkle Toes? Because he's the Japanese nerd.
I think it came from Sega.
Well, I know that he likes to
play with his
Sega. So it was Jericho and Twinkle Toes and the former Big Show and Kota Ibushi in an 8-man tag against Take-A-Shit, Powerhouse Hobbs, Kyle Felcher, and Brian Cage, who got stuck in there some way. Apparently, either they were a guy short or somebody got hurt. And the ring was decorated with sushi menus. Like if you go in a goddamn restaurant. Pictures of the food. And Take-A-Shit comes down carrying a barbed wire wrapped baseball bat. Jericho comes in a black suit and tie with a baseball bat. And Twinkle Toes and his pal Ibushi came out together. Big Show came out in a suit. Apparently that has something to do with this video game. And then they jump-started the match on the entrance ramp. And in the first 1 minute of this 8-man tag, Big Show chokeslammed Kyle Felcher off the stage through a table to the floor. And then Felcher later on was fine. But Big Show, who's, by the way, is his right leg crooked now? Is it a hip problem, a knee problem? people pointed it out on his previous appearance also last week when he walked out.
Yeah, because of the last appearance, as soon as he came out there, I was watching the way he walked, and he's, you know, as you would think for a guy that size who was doing physical stuff for as many years as he did, doesn't seem like he's having an easy time moving around.
Well, no, and that's why he never went to the ring. They did that choke slam spot, and then this little fucking grease stain Felcher was fine later on after the biggest athlete in the world choke slammed him off the stage through a fucking table. But then apparently they got Show out to the back, and he and Hobbs did a thing where they fought in the parking lot, and you saw like 3 or 4 very brief shots of them struggling in the parking lot because they had to know Big Show couldn't get in the ring. He couldn't take a bump. He was about to take one, but he couldn't take a bump in the ring. He couldn't move around in the ring. They didn't want to expose that. But so they brought him in to do the choke slam spot and then risk his real fucking health to do a stupid spot with Hobbs, and Hobbs was never in the match either until they emasculated him at the end. I'll get there. In the meantime, Kota fucking Ibushi is the worst wrestler in the world. Is he not? No facials. He doesn't sell. He's slow. His strikes are weak. When he and Kenny have the thing where they run to the opposite corners and jump off and do backflips. And every time that they do that, this goof either gets hung and trips or can't hit it or takes forever to hit it. And again, he can't do that, but the whole match has to come to a halt so that they can stare at each other with their blank, vapid expressions, expecting the fans to get excited for something that they ain't getting and don't know what the fuck's going on because 2 guys are just standing there. And then they run to do the backflips, and Kota takes 10 seconds longer than Twinkle Toes does. Why do they keep doing that? Okay, if you did it in the past, fine. The Rock and Roll Express don't do the double drop kick anymore because they can't.
You know, Kota Ibushi in his prime was a talented guy, but a lot of the things you're saying here are things I always thought. He had bad facial expressions. Some of his stuff looked silly, even though he'll also take stupid bumps right on his neck, which he's been doing for a long time. But the other problem is, and it's been apparent since the first moment they brought him back, whatever it was, that War Games match they did, I think was the first time he was in. He's shot. He doesn't look physically like a wrestler. Well, I shouldn't say that, but he used to be in shape. He used to be on the gas, I think, but he was in shape. Now he looks completely out of shape, and he's doing everything slower. The comparison has been made, and it's probably slightly unfair because it's different, but kind of like Terry Gordy is the executioner.
Oh, no.
They brought this guy in there. They just signed him. Then they announced they signed him.
Yes. Well, because, again, Twinkle Toes has gotten every outlaw mud show Japanese female a job, and now he's working on the guys. He can't get top talent, but he can get his fucking buddies that are shot or never were to begin with. So,
yeah, you know what's the funny thing too is that tag team, it's the Big Show and 3 Observer Hall of Famers.
Oh, good Lord. I mean, the Big Show, Paul's a great guy. And he was a big star, no pun intended. And if he was physically capable, he'd still be the biggest star and probably the best worker in this goddamn fiasco. But, so, and that's what, at that point, they would get a shot of Big Show and Hobbs in the parking lot fighting on a car. And then they'd go back to the ring where they were hitting each other with sushi menus. And then, that's how the match has come to be known, the bicycle match. Bicycle, bicycle, I'd love to ride my bicycle. We had bicycle races. Apropos of absolute, I don't know what a bicycle has to do with anything or any of these people, but this fucking little Japanese twit gets on a goddamn bicycle on the stage and tries to ride it down the entranceway, and you can tell coming halfway down, he can't ride a bicycle. He's literally, it's moving just enough where it won't fall over sideways. And he's swerving at that. And he's got a fake lead pipe in his hand. And as he rides past people, he sticks it out and they take a bump off of it. He's not hitting anybody. He's just touching them with it and they're flying. And then he rides all the way down and some other fucking loser clotheslines him off the fucking bicycle on his head. Oh, but and then they cut back to the parking lot and Hobbs is on a platform next to the car that they were fighting on, him and Big Show. And he gets Big Show up for a slam and turns him and drops him on the car hood. And then Show slides off,
Yeah, then he rolls off the car hood.
Yeah. But that was a risk for a guy that size with that health history. And yes, if you want to get Powerhouse Hobbs over, have him slam Andre, but not if you're in the finish of the match going to cut his balls off and shove them in his mouth and show him completely helpless and emasculated in front of the entire world after you have him slam the Giant. So anyway, he slams the Giant. Then they started hitting people with the bicycle. And they brain-bustered Coda on it, but that may not be the proper term. He can't have a brain. And then Jericho and Take-A-Shit were fighting in the lobby of the building. Did you love the DDT that Take-A-Shit hit Jericho with on a padded leather couch?
That was something, wasn't it? I've never seen that before.
He sold it. He sold being DDT'd on a fucking couch. And then in the parking lot, the doctors were trying to figure out how to carry Big Show out of there because he was done. And then, of course, inside, Twinkle Toes had to set up a table. And at one point, there were two of the heels beating up Kenny in the ring and getting 2 counts on him, while the stupid idiot partner that he brought in was walking around on the floor, not even paying attention to the match. So did Kenny and Coda figure out, okay, you're completely shot physically and you were never worth a shit to begin with, from what I can tell, so Tony will give you $2 million a year, just show up?
I don't think he's getting that much, but he's getting a very nice deal. And he gets to hang out with Kenny. That's a big plus. But he's shot. He's not worth any of that right now. He hasn't shown it.
So then Kenny broke a fake bottle over Felcher's head. And as soon as he did that, within 2 seconds, the director cut away to Jericho's fight with whoever in the concourse. So they broke a bottle over a guy's head and cut it and never mentioned it. Then later on, when they broke another bottle, they said, oh, there's another one. You fucking morons. Clueless putzes, fucking amateurs, imbeciles. So then Take-A-Shit climbed up on top of the Coca-Cola coolers and dove onto Jericho, but he shot him with a fire extinguisher. And Hobbs got in the ring finally and started to do a couple of things. Felcher got a pap smear. He was trying to get juice, but you can tell he's scared and inexperienced, so it was more like he popped a real aggravated zit. And then Brian Cage superplexed Twinkle Toes from inside the ring out over the top rope and through 2 tables flat to the floor. And that was a break spot. That was the goddamnedest thing. What a fucking bump. It was a hospitalization angle. If you did that on live TV with somebody that the fans cared about and stuck them in an ambulance and kept them off for 6 weeks, you'd draw money. But they did it for a break spot. And it was done by the one guy on that team that nobody's going to give a shit about, Brian Cage. And it was done to the other guy on the team that wasn't smart enough to goddamn realize that he had to get back up and do more shit. So he took that bump and risked his life for fucking nothing. And as they came back from the break, the guy who just got superplexed off the top rope through tables to the floor was hitting the guy that superplexed him with pieces of the table that he just went through. And then Felcher tombstone pile drove Coda off the apron of the ring through a cardboard sign and onto metal folding chairs.
That looked pretty nasty.
Of course it did, because you'd have to be a complete imbecile to be either one of those guys. You're either going to break your neck or you're going to destroy your fucking knees. Apparently, from the luck of fools, neither happened. Why would you do that? You fucking idiots. You know that these insipid individuals are why that I do not and haven't for some time had any interest in ever being involved in this fucking business again. That a business that I've made millions of dollars in and achieved a high level in it at various stages of the game, and I'm embarrassed at what they've done to it. And it's these stupid, insipid, vapid, amateurish, childish, moronic imbeciles and their ilk that have made it that way. And then, since Hobbs is too big of a talent to be allowed to get over, we got to cut him off at the knees and take his balls away at the same time. They got Hobbs in the ring and duct taped him to the top rope, spread out. One wrist on one side, one wrist on the other side. And he was completely immobile. And then they duct taped his mouth so he couldn't speak. And then they hit him with a chair, a cardboard sign, and finally broke another bottle over his head, the second bottle of the night. I remind, wait a minute, who did the first one get? The first one got broken over Felcher's head. The guy that looks like he's 12 years old and just escaped from a juvenile reform school got a bottle broken over his head earlier in the night, and he came back and tombstoned one of these other nitwits off the fucking ring. But Hobbs, who looks like a grown adult man that could kick your ass, he's taped till he's immobile. He's muted like a kidnap victim. And then they break the bottle over his head and he hangs there motionless for the rest of the fucking show. And not only that, it's not just bad when you immobilize the monster and when you just bash the monster over the head until he's unconscious, but then when you have the people, he's in the shot, they can't cut around it. People are seeing him laying there immobile, unconscious, helpless, useless. And the longer you see that, the more it's planted in your mind. Yeah, he's a big, useless piece of shit. Even when in Frankenstein, when the monster is strapped down to the table after they find him the first time, and they've given him the goddamn sedative, you know, the hand is still moving or the eye opens. There's still a reason to be scared. And then sooner or later he's going to break out. No, this guy's just fucked. Fuck him. Just hang him there while we do our other shit. And then Jericho and Twinkle Toes beat the shit out of Brian Cage. And then Twinkle Toes beat Cage with the one-winged fairy, while in the background, the only guy in this entire goddamn match that should be, well, besides Take a Shit, but he's rapidly being ruined, that should be being pushed was hanging there like his grandmother Hobbs's fucking dirty laundry on a line. And after this rotten, phony performance, being the worst wrestler involved in a goddamn match that is so embarrassing that people were laughing about it on fucking Twitter while it was going on, Tony Khan signs the guy. 2 weeks of him on TV is too much. We're going to have him for a year or 2.
Or 3.
Or 3. Well, come on now. Brian, I think you're getting optimistic at this point. That's way past the next rights fee renewal and et cetera. And, you know.
Tony still has inheritance to blow, and that's all this is.
How much you think Shad's going to give him?
Well, remember, Shad's his partner in this. You got to, at some point, you have to wonder how much of it's a write-off. But I think whatever it is or isn't, AEW is not going away. Like TNA never went away. AEW is not going away. And Ibushi being signed, again, we're not talking about Ibushi if you're a fan of his in 2015 or something. He has shown nothing in AEW. We know he's not going to be able to do promos. The only things he seems to be able to do are anything with Kenny. That actually holds Kenny back.
Hey, I understand he can do all kinds of things with Kenny, but almost nobody else.
But that holds Kenny back, actually. You know, if you think about it, like Kenny versus MJF was a match that should have been built up. Kenny's the only thing that props the Bucks up, that anyone cares about the Bucks when he's there. Now he's going to be tied to Ibushi while he's there. Because who else is he going to feud with? Do you want to see Kota Ibushi against MJF? Maybe if you're like a super nerd, you want to see the match to see what it would be. I don't know what it would be now versus a few years ago. But you can't have a feud.
MJF would have to put his foot down about that, wouldn't he?
You can't have a feud with him. So they're signing a guy who was once really good in the ring, who's very close friends with an executive vice president who seems to get all of his friends signed to deals. And we've seen nothing except embarrassing stuff from him in that War Games match. Couldn't ride the bicycle, and then once he did, he couldn't hit anyone in a convincing way with a fake pipe.
I wonder if he can pat his head and rub his tummy at the same time.
But AEW, again, another week where it's just embarrassing, where nothing looks impressive, and where they say everything is great and moving on in a fantastic fashion.